Okay, well, I'll ask you first of all about South Africa's role in the COP negotiations in general. I was talking to Patricia Espinosa a little while ago about the responsibility that Cancun had to bring the process forward after the troubles in Copenhagen. What are the responsibilities that South Africa has in taking the process forward?
We actually, as South Africa, have two roles, and that's how we see it, and that's how we planned to coordinate this whole 2-week-long process. We have the COP president now, our colleague Maite Nkwana-Mashabane, who is a COP president working with the other team of international relations on matters of really bringing the parties together, over and above just chairing the meeting, but facilitating. The role that she has to play is to facilitate, not just to wait for parties to make things happen, but to break the jam lock, break wherever the disagreements may be, help parties to find one another. Our role as a party, now in my capacity as leader of government delegation, is also to liaise with parties over and above our mandate to ensure that the mandate that we have, reasonable as it is, that's taking us forward, is actually taken forward. The first part of that mandate, by the way, says that we need to operationalize the Cancun decisions because we believe that they are good. They've been founded on solid discussions, on agreement, agreed to, we were there, applaud, and everybody else. So we need to go forward. Now, a step forward here in South Africa would really have to say to us, all of us, second commitment period of Kyoto Protocol, issues of adaptation, obviously linked to the Kyoto Protocol second commitment period being the issues of convention, the two-track system, but the Bali roadmap, also things that have not been included. The second area being the adaptation framework that would have been adopted from Cancun, but also now looking at the adaptation committee adopted, now looking at the framework going forward, because there are some gaps in the text itself where adaptation is considered. But more importantly, getting into now going forward to really deal with the Green Climate Fund, completing it, and now beginning to look at sources of fund, but also finding some way of beginning discussions on the form. That's now the legal form. We believe that those things, our COP presidency will steer, will also lobby other delegates. We've been doing the hard work throughout the year, and we'll continue to do that work here until we find one another. And that's our role. We do believe that working together here with all the delegates under the different umbrella groups, under the different groupings that are here, BASIC, G77 plus China, the Africa group, and all the umbrella group, and the EU will engage, and we've had discussions with them. We'll continue to have those discussions and really find one another on the small things that we may still be differing.
You spoke in the meeting about those who were not fully committed to Kyoto. Canada was mentioned. How do you go about trying to convince them that Kyoto, as you believe, is worth fighting for, is worth continuing with?
Well, we do first of all listen to reasons why people say they do not like to have the second commitment of period of Kyoto Protocol. For instance, we hear Japan saying that, and Canada probably, that we have been in this thing and it really doesn't work for us. We are the only ones who are now bound by these rules that are under Kyoto Protocol, and others are not. So this is the reason why the others and ourselves are saying, let's look at the roadmap that has been proposed by the EU, for instance, which is likely to bring us as parties together and finding a language or finding processes that actually get us to understand each other better and to be able to accommodate one another's concern. And this is what we mean by saying that let's engage, let's facilitate the views that come from different angles up, and also listening carefully to what people's concerns are, because we can't just run roughshod over people's concerns. All of us do have challenges in countries, and we've got to find a way of understanding those challenges and really find a way of dealing with those challenges in a manner that will take us forward, all of us as parties.
You spoke about the responsibility that South Africa has in getting people to negotiate on climate change. You've also obviously taken on the responsibility to sort out the problem of climate change, of pollution in South Africa itself with this, with the Green Economy Accord. Could you tell me a little bit about that, what South Africa is doing within its own borders?
We have come out of a process, let me start from 2 years ago, let me not go a bit further, but where our president announced in Copenhagen that we will address our long-term mitigation scenarios and quite clearly articulated long-term mitigation scenarios. The numbers are there out to be seen by everybody because they are public. But yes, post that process, we came back home. We had to work hard on some of the processes that had already started in the country. For instance, the green climate change response, climate change response paper, that's a policy framework. To finalize that policy framework that was started 6 years ago and through a process of having included the majority of the stakeholders, if not all. I do recall that when that conference started, there were 2 conferences in one hall of the scientists and ordinary us. And the 2 conferences then merged and got to fit back to one another, which led to us adopting principles and movement and way forward, which then culminated into this policy framework. We have done calculations. We have really looked at the scientific methodology of agreeing on what each sector must do and which sectors must actually help us to reduce the carbon emissions. Energy, transport, agriculture and land affairs, you name them, under mitigation, both mitigation and adaptation areas of work. So that policy is intact, but it also addresses the need for us to go forward to find new way of doing things. The green economy then became part of that. Last year, we adopted the green growth, the growth strategy, the growth path broadly of the country. And within that growth path, we said, again, let it not be business as usual. Let's move away from the methods that actually impact on environment and that actually contributes to climate change. This is now the Green Accord that we have signed last week through my colleague, Minister Patel of Economic Development, where he coordinated all parties of the country about what we must do together, getting the green economy now into an accord and acting together. So those are some of our little contributions, but we do believe that with this way forward, because we are not intending to sit back, even post this conference, we're going to work hard. We should be somewhere very far along the trajectory come COP18. And moving forward, we should be able to say, when we issue our third communications report, national communication report, we should be able to see some changes in that regard.
Minister, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.